Welcome to the Money Panda, hosted by Elvis Kolawole.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I can't believe it's been so long. Anyways, welcome to the first episode of season 2 of Money Panda. Today, I have a very special man with me. I have a man who is one nationality but claims to be the other on his passport, a man who also supports a certain cryptocurrency to the level of activism, but also claims not to be a maxi. A man who's a lot of things, a man who used to be a marketeer, but now is a product man and an innovation strategist of sorts. He's going to talk much more about all of that. I want you all to give big welcome to Brad Wilson. Brad Wilson is the founder of Must Disrupt, and that's a consultancy that future-proofs businesses through human-centered design and emerging tech. Did I get that correctly?
Yeah. So it's right in the convergence of the limits of human creativity and where tech can sort of fulfill and do everything else for us.
Okay, how about a small shield? Would I say which are the buzzwords would a person who would want to look at Must Disrupt? Which are the buzzwords are they looking to disrupt? AI, Web3, Internet of Things, all of it?
Limiting beliefs. So essentially all of it. When I say limiting beliefs, I'm so you sort of alluded to it earlier. I am Namibian. I live in Namibia. I work in Namibia, but I did spend a lot of time in South Africa. I studied there, so I was there for a good 8-9 years as well. And coming from Namibia, we're a very conservative country, and with that conservative behavior comes a mindset also that we even after 35 years of independence, we still think certain things aren't for us, or we're not ready for certain things, or those things should only be done by the West and by the techies and by people who are smarter than us. So there's still a big facet of where we limit ourselves because we don't think we are capable enough. And a lot of that then with the design thinking or with the human-centered design is unlocking that and unlocking that creativity within us, and ultimately allowing us as the humans to design and create the future and the solutions that we aspire to and that we want.
I see. Okay, well, I would hope that you're successful with that, because I think the problem of limiting beliefs is a thing not just like with the global south, but actually with sub-Saharan Africa. I would say no, not just with sub-Saharan Africa, but with the global south. I think maybe we've seen like quite a lot of those things happen everywhere. I can definitely relate to it, like being Nigerian. And funny thing, being Nigerian, like I'll say one of the things I that's fascinated me is how would I say peaceful, if I'll call it that, how much peace and how much certainty there is, like with those limiting beliefs that you do not like so much, and it's something that I probably might crave being Nigerian. So yeah, I guess some things are a blessing and a curse for others. Yeah, talk about these things and these people we're about to talk to.
So I studied in South Africa, and even at the time when I was studying, I was studying accounting actually. So I was looking to be
Oh shit.
a finance manager. Yeah, so I was looking to be a finance manager, and this was just before 2008. So just before the juicy global financial crisis. And when that hit, I think at the same time I also acknowledged, I needed to do something that was within my passions, and that's where the marketing side of it played a big role. And the year before, in 2007, I'd been introduced to Facebook. I wanted to work in a space where the internet was prevalent, or was the foundation of work, and at the same time feeding this marketing passion. This was digital marketing. But in Namibia and even in South Yeah, but in Namibia and even in South Africa at the time, these were emerging sectors. So as much as it maybe doesn't feel like that now, 16 years later, there wasn't a lot of agencies hiring for digital marketers. There wasn't a lot of social media manager work going around. Um, so yeah, years trying to grow into that sector that wasn't established. In 2016, there was this new fascination around crypto. So I have a couple of friends who are Bitcoin maxis who, since 2012, have been trying to convince me. But in 2016, really, the interest started sparking. More so in 2021 was really when I decided to eat it, go all in. Obviously 2022, establishing Must Disrupt initially just as a newsletter.
What happened around 2016?
Yeah, 2016 was really when the interest in crypto and in Bitcoin started to pick up with me. I also at the time felt I'm not wealthy enough to be a Bitcoiner, so I left that until about 2020 actually. Lockdown, a couple of my friends who were full Bitcoin maxis then again were like, Brad, you need to look into it. And that's when I finally spent some time doing my own research. So took me long enough to sort of do my own research. I think 8 years in total. But ultimately that led to this interest in, again, needing to be on the forefront of where technology was going, where the internet was going. Ultimately, over time, also realizing, I needed to have better control over my finances. And that's somewhat where I became orange pilled. I'm not a maxi. I don't like labels.
Did you just say you're orange? Did you just say orange pilled?
Yeah, financially.
Okay.
Financially orange pilled, but I'm not gonna run around saying Satoshi's God, which is what you get from a lot of the maxis, But yeah, there was always this interest in what's next, technologically wise or technology wise, and I think I was also fairly early on when it came to generative AI. I mean, I've wasted my Midjourney credits in 2022 when it wasn't half the tool it is today. So I don't even have free credits there anymore. So the intention is to always look at the future, look at what might work, and then try and apply that to our current context.
I love that. I love that. It's always good to be future centric and always looking into what's next. And also like keeping in touch with what's happening right now. I think I'm similar in the sense that it was around 2020 I really started to take it serious. First time I really heard about cryptocurrencies was probably around 2017, but it was mostly scams, I think. So it was mostly scams, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna touch all this. So yeah, anyway, I mean, I'm glad that you're here now and you can see a lot of things happening, around you. So where do we start from? So let's start by maybe looking into some of the funny things that have been happening. First things first, there is this guy. I think I'm murdering his name. He's a South African politician. I think his name is Julius Malema. Did I murder his name?
No, it's Julius Malema.
I didn't murder his name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great. He was involved in one of these hacks in quote, in which, the hacks turned out to be a scammer trying to shield some sort of crypto coin. And it's something we've seen actually on the African continent with the likes of Tony Elumelu and Nigerian, by the way, and the Ghanaian president. I've forgotten his name. I think his name is Mahama. Yes, his name is Mahama. I just checked. Yeah, so those guys, they've been involved in very similar stuff where their accounts get taken over and then like a scam happens. Now, knowing what you know about these scams, remember when Yeezy talked about some of these crypto scams? Have you seen that thing that Yeezy talked about where like somebody offered him an opportunity where he could post something and then he would claim it was a scam, and then by the time he did claim it was a scam, like lots of money would already have been made. So what do you make of this happening to these guys, these African guys?
Well, it's obviously a pity when it happens to African revolutionary leaders like Julius Malema. Yeah, I firmly believe in a lot of the things he says, not everything, but a lot of things he says. I don't think he'd be involved in such a scam. I think if he genuinely says he's hacked, I think, I would tend to believe that more. I think it's always a shame when this happens. Again, it speaks to, these hacks are happening on platforms that don't belong to us. These are US based companies where the data is all in the US. The encryption is in the US. The passwords are
Wow.
maintained and controlled in those countries. And yeah, no, at the moment the relationship between America and South Africa isn't the best it's ever been. Not that it's been
Yeah.
wonderful. Remember, these guys didn't support,
Yes.
the American government didn't support the South African end to apartheid. They were actually on the
Yes. Yes.
side
Yes.
of
They were actually on the
of
side
the
of the
apartheid government. They were fighting their proxy war that way. The people weren't, but yeah, that's a whole other story. So yeah, it's a shame that it's happening to African leaders. But yeah, I think it speaks to, again, us needing to. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but slowly move towards platforms where we have more control. So decentralized social is the future. It's
Mm.
where we can actually, maintain the access to the content that we push out there, but at the same time control what content we consume.
What would you say to a person that criticizes that, saying something like, we already have decentralized protocols that get hacked for millions or billions of dollars? Like, what's stopping that from happening to a social media platform, a decentralized social media platform?
If it's truly decentralized, it's all the human's always the most vulnerable weak point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
That's also the whole other challenge. Just over the last 6 months, we had two of our internet service providers in the country got hacked, and gigs of their data, of user data, is out there on the dark web. So some of it is data relating to our politicians, their banking details, as in their bank account numbers, their residential addresses. And again, this was likely a weak point on the user side at one of these ISPs. That risk is out there. I think the biggest challenge
Yes.
we do in sub-Saharan Africa is the digital literacy. I think you guys are ahead of us. Very much on the
A little
forefront.
bit. A little bit.
Well, when we scams, you guys were very early. And, as much as that's a bad thing, it also shows that there was already there was
Yes.
already an appetite to learn more about this technology, which we are
Yeah.
slowly getting to now. Digital literacy is really important for the future of Africa.
Okay, I mean, segueing into that, I'm actually curious. I'm curious. Like, you being from Namibia in the south of Africa. Like, what was the impression? Maybe where Nigeria was technologically. And let me give you some context also, because you mentioned some scams. Currently, as I showed you before, Nigeria, according to SumHub, is listed as the place with the highest level of verification scams. No, okay, the second highest in the world. I've forgotten actually who's the highest, but by far in Africa, like, by a country mile in Africa, let's just say it means like a lot has not changed. So I'm curious, like, what was your impression, like all these years, with the scams and shit
So
of Nigerians?
I didn't know that many Nigerians. I tended to, like, my friends from West Africa were Ghanaian.
Yeah, okay.
At the same time, I always Pan African, so I'm always gonna give the benefit of the doubt to a fellow African. The way
Yeah.
I just framed it was, my West African brothers are applying their ingenuity, and if you got scammed, you also needed to do your own due diligence, which is important. The impression was always, you guys are also because of, I think, how well, in my mind at least, how well mobile money works in West Africa. I always felt that technologically you're a few steps ahead of us.
Okay, I mean, that's funny because it does work. I think mobile money works everywhere in West Africa but Nigeria, which is really funny because almost everywhere else in West Africa it's a thing, but it's never been a thing. Actually, I might want to investigate the reasons why, but maybe it might just be maybe incentive structures or something. Because it's never quite picked up like crazy the way it is in Ghana, the Ivory Coast, Senegal, or Benin Republic. It's never been that. Oh yeah, and maybe like just to touch on the fact about Nigerian scams. The thing is, it's become like a thing that's everyone's very aware of, like society wide. In fact, it's a mainstream thing. It's the sort of thing where the same way rappers in the US rap about selling dope, some musicians here would sing about dudes who are scammers, you know? And the thing is, at least there have been some efforts to try to rein it in. As I showed you, there were some mass arrests. Of course, like in many of the mass arrests, there is like a gross misuse of power. When there's mass arrests, there are people who try to take advantage of that, and of course try to um, have draconian applications of these laws around cybercrime. And that's part of what led to a huge protest called NSARS, I think 2020. People just calling anyone they see on the street Yahoo Boys, because that's what they're called here. Yahoo Boys mostly. And I think crypto is just facing like the next frontier. Scammers from the email scams, from the Nigerian princes. Now, the same way the North Korean scammers sort of like went from all that to these crypto scams, it's more like a natural evolution. In fact, there are some of the more notorious big scammers. A lot of them are people who maybe run crypto exchanges or run crypto related services in conjunction with doing full scale scamming. So it's been a thing, but I don't like governments are trying to rein it in, and it makes it difficult, I guess, navigating the world as Nigerian. But you know, it is what it is.
I mean, there's also what 260 something million of you.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of
So,
us.
I mean, by numbers, it makes sense that you will have some nefarious characters. Also, shout out Hush Puppy.
I would imagine.
You know, there's a few friends of mine from South Africa. I won't mention them, but they hung out with him. They hung out with him in Dubai. So whenever they would go to Dubai, that would be one of the stops. You would check in with Hush Puppy.
Wow, he really was that guy, wasn't he?
He was. I wanted to ask you something.
Yeah, sure.
Because of the scamming, do you think that's gonna lead to the regulators taking a harsher stance?
They sort of already are.
Mm.
I'll say they already are. So because of the scamming, one, like I said, one of the side effects is harsher treatment of everyday people and just introduction of draconian laws to try and extort people, to try and rein in and arrest as many people as possible. And of course, the arrests tend to become a sort of extortion for everyday regular people who maybe just fit a particular sort of profiling, maybe people who drive big cars, or people who just look really good, people who look like rappers, or you know, people who look fly. You know, they might just look at you and be like, there's no way you have it like that, except you're scamming. And there's that on one side. Another effect has been, would I say, the reluctance of the government to have clear regulations on crypto. Basically, Nigeria's flip-flopped on crypto policy for like maybe the last 5 years or the last two administrations. They sort of flip-flopped every 2 to 3 years from one level of crackdowns to the other. And it got to the point where I think last year or so, in the midst of hyperinflation, they decided to start basically picking on crypto companies and blaming them for devaluing the naira. And I think one of the more high profile incidents was that with the Binance executive. I think his name is, it's an Armenian sounding name, but he's an American anyway. He's this American guy who they decided to lock him up and do one of their little extortion exercises. And basically, they alleged that Binance was helping to devalue the naira through, you know, providing an off ramp, because they tried to crack down on legitimate off ramps through bureau de change or bureau de change, and then they decided, okay, maybe people who are still being able to easily change or off ramp to USD were doing that via crypto, so they decided to go after the exchanges, and they decided to fine Binance, I think some hundreds of millions of dollars or something. I probably won't confirm. They decided to, and Binance was never going to pay that. They knew it was just a shakedown. But in the process of that, they kept this particular executive and his mate, I think his guy, they kept them in Nigeria, detained them for like over a year, and like they kept him in like really, really horrible circumstances. He only managed to leave through like lots of US government lobbying and lots of high level conversations with the Nigerian government. He only managed to leave like late last year, and it was crazy, so yeah, as you might imagine, it's not an easy thing to be a country that's associated with these things. So yeah, it's had some effects for sure.
So I think that's where I need to praise our central bank, who's our chief regulator. In 2022, 2023, they acknowledged, we don't know too much about this. They actually had one of the guys who runs a local exchange come in and help them develop the Virtual Assets Act that we currently have in place, which, it could be a lot stricter, but it really isn't. There's obviously some parameters in place, but at the same time, what our central bank sort of said is, if your business is willing to accept crypto as a payment, that's on you. But don't come running to us if something goes wrong. At the same time, what they did do was they put in place the parameters for if you intend to open an exchange. So we have one Bitcoin exchange in the country at the moment. It's called Landifa, and we have another exchange that actually just got permission to trade. It's a Mauritian company. It's a company from Mauritius. All the other exchanges, Binance, all of the rest, we can have accounts. Before 2023, we could even deposit directly from our bank accounts. But since like the regulations or the Virtual Assets Act has come into place, it's becoming more difficult to actually buy crypto. All of my bank accounts are completely locked out, so I can't buy from an international exchange. I just get your service provider or your bank hasn't allowed this transaction. I know a few of my friends are still able to buy, so they're lucky enough. But it's a good thing and a bad thing, because they're protecting the money and the people, but at the same time, it is limiting people from buying from vetted exchanges that are credible globally, like a Binance. And that's what's also leading people to then go buy from shady individuals who are ultimately scamming them. We have a massive crypto scam, although it wasn't really crypto, that's currently in our courts here, where it's the equivalent of, I think, 9 million US that was taken from people who thought they were buying Bitcoin but actually weren't. So it's leading to that. But I think our central bank is good in terms of working with the disruptors and the fintechs to be able to put in place products that work for the nation, at the same time, looking after our money. Money laundering and grey listing is something we are super fearful of. Our central bank governor is really trying to do the right things to ensure we don't get grey listed. We're looking for investments from outside, so grey listing is the worst thing that can happen to us.
I feel you. I mean, I think you're doing it's the right approach. I think, to be very honest, is that what I say, creating wealth of any sort is always risky. I get that, like the need to protect users, because it's a crazy world out there. Like I mean, there are always going to be these scammers, these unscrupulous operators, because of the nature of the space. Yeah, speaking of unscrupulous operators, they're everywhere. So real quick, I want to get your take on these three people who might be unscrupulous type operators. As you might know, Russia already accepts Bitcoin in order to skirt sanctions, not even for any other reason. I don't think like the Russian central bank was fully, they sort of had a gray area, I say, around crypto adoption, but now they use Bitcoin to skirt sanctions. And of course, you might know about the North Koreans. You also know about Iran, which is funny because Iran has been in a terrible position, like being ostracized from the world, and yet they had a hard line with crypto, and now they're at such a point where they feel like crypto is their only way out. So if you think about the likes of North Korea, Iran, Russia, using this to skirt sanctions, I mean, no matter what you might think about these regimes, like what do you think about that, like the fact that this is happening?
We spoke about decentralized social earlier as a way to protect and govern the messaging that we put out. This again is decentralized money, where I hate to say it, where the US doesn't have control. It's the sanctions are coming.
No, go on.
Honestly, bro, if you look at two countries I'm very passionate about also that like I have close connections to is Cuba is one. Cuba is the state that it's in because of US sanctions. And the other one is Zimbabwe.
Yes.
The other one is our neighboring country, Zimbabwe. Beautiful country, the most hardworking people in the world. Like, you will never outwork a Zimbabwean. Forget it.
Wow.
They work so hard and incredibly intelligent. And then you look at what sanctions has also done to that country, where there's also lots of scammy stories relating to what's happening in the country, but it's because there's no other options. They've also been cut off from the world. And that's why at the same time I do sympathize and empathize with Russia, with Iran, and with North Korea, also countries that have been cut off financially and economically, been cut off from trading.
Yeah.
And I think we're slowly seeing that shift happen now that we are able to understand more about what's the real life situation in those countries.
Yes.
That we are able to have that empathy and able to understand these are also just people that want to earn a living, want to live their lives. Interesting you mentioned Russia and Bitcoin. I was at a Bitcoin conference in South Africa in January, and one of the car rental companies was saying the Russians and Ukrainians are his best customers because they pay in Bitcoin, and he's got the only car rental company in Cape Town that accepts Bitcoin. So he's got this massive advantage over all of the other traditional car rental companies. So it's working for him.
Wow.
And it's allowing Russians to be able to still travel to South Africa and still travel the world and actually transact.
Yeah. I see that. It's crazy because like the financial hegemony is the financial hegemony, of course, like that the US is at the top of. It's crazy. It's crazy to the level where it's what I say it's a watershed moment whenever I see the fact that they can decide basically who gets to live or take part in some processes in this world, and cutting somebody off financially is basically like cutting off. It's like killing them. I think on some level it's an act of war, It's an act of war on some level, and it's incredible that much power is given to one country. It's something. You can see this, yeah? You can see this.
Yeah.
You can see the screen.
Yeah.
Wait. Just watch this. Watch this. Who do you see punching the traitor? I mean, who do you see punching the traitor?
Is it?
Yeah, that's no. I mean, you could say it's the U.S., but that's Jerome Powell.
Okay.
This man tends to announce every other day, has a huge effect on the price of Bitcoin. So it's funny, even in our budding decentralized world, there's still so much power. Like you said, I can empathize. Despite whatever these people have done, or despite whatever these people have done, I'm not trying to minimize whatever it is they have done. I think they all have their faults, but it's one thing, minimizing. Sorry, it's one thing trying to elevate the faults of some certain types of people and elevating the faults of one kind of person and minimizing the faults of some other kinds of people, which is something we've seen happen, and that usually results in sanctions. So, well, it's a new era, I guess. It's a new era just watching this happen. Okay, and finally, you mentioned something about the guy in Cape Town, the guy who runs the dealership in Cape Town, and that's a nice segue to you. Play. Why exactly are you only accepting Bitcoin? Sorry, first things first. Are you only accepting Bitcoin for your business? And when I say you, is it your business or the business you run with your partners?
So as a business, from 1 April, I will only be transacting in Bitcoin.
Only, no other.
If you want to pay me, that's sort of part of the adoption journey for you then is to get you to purchase Bitcoin and then be able to pay me with that Bitcoin that you've purchased. But at the same time, for you to hold it as this asset. We didn't touch on it, but you know, Trump saying that they're going to hold Bitcoin as a strategic reserve makes the point that clearly the strongest asset in the world is Bitcoin. And it's only going to get stronger. I think at the moment we're at what 1.8 trillion market cap. It's coming for gold. Surely is coming for gold. And I want to hold an asset that I know is going to have its value for the next 100, 200 years, which is Bitcoin. It's a big part of also walking the talk. So I can't be preaching and helping these businesses accept Bitcoin as a means of payment, and then me not accepting it as payment. So it's part of, you know, creating this, playing the role to create the circular economy that I want to operate within.
Wow, this is crazy. I mean, just to ask, I have a few like really important questions from somebody who might be skeptical. Let's say, okay, you decided to do this, but for me, I am skeptical for a few reasons. One, from the side of you being a service provider and somebody accepting your service, I think like having somebody try to on-ramp into Bitcoin might be a what's it called, like a small hurdle to overcome. And yeah, that's just on one side. And usually as a service-based business, I would say like reducing the number of hurdles to overcome is really quite like a big part of the USP. But then secondly, I am under the impression currently that Bitcoin, given the fact that like it's going to become a strategic reserve in the US and in a few other countries, even the likes of China, elsewhere, it means that it has value. But then I think it's looking like it's about to establish itself more as a means of holding value, or maybe a holder of value rather than a currency. Yeah, sorry, store of value rather than a currency. So are you willing to hedge a lot of your business on something that's meant to be a store of value? And secondly, are you willing to have people overcome this hurdle because of an ideological belief, except you can prove that your ideological belief is business centered as well?
So
So
I see it as being both a medium of exchange and a store of value. At the same time, try and not spend my Bitcoin. I don't want to be the two pizza guy in 5 years' time and look back and say, I bought a bottle of water for 50,000 satoshis. What was I thinking? So I don't want to, at the same time, I don't want to be that guy. Sorry, the earlier part of your question, if you could circle back to that one, the total addressable market, 100%. I needed, and that's why it took me so long as well, I needed to make peace with the fact that I was going to take my total addressable market, which already was really small because we have a small population. A lot of our big companies that I'm looking to do business with are governed in South Africa, so the decision making happens in South Africa. So I was already taking like a really small total addressable market, and now making it even smaller because who's really willing to transact with this digital money, internet money that isn't widely adopted? But that's also part of it. I want to work with people and businesses that have realized that, you know, the future's headed in this way. They also want to hold on to an asset that is going to be the number one asset class in the world. And I think that speaks to, you know, working with like-minded people and like-minded companies and like-minded leaders. I always put out these memes on my WhatsApp status where visionary leaders will say it's a scam, and then, you know, have what they said about Bitcoin 5 years ago as the sort of premise of it. These are people that we painted as visionary leaders, you know, the Larry Finks of the world, who 6 years ago said Bitcoin is the biggest scam, and last year it's like, now we gotta have some Bitcoin as the biggest company in the world, you know. So I think at the same time, the other side of it, where retail has messed up, is we've sold a lot of our Bitcoin over the last year to institutions and to these massive companies, which is really sad, actually. I put up the chart yesterday, and you just see the value being shifted over to the black rocks from the individuals, which is Like we adopted this thing and now we've just decided to give it away, which is that's pretty sad. Just hodl, guys, just hodl until it's time.
Okay, I truly hope they do. I truly hope they do. We're almost running out of time. But yeah, let's just do a quick game. Yeah, I'd like to just do a quick game of this for that, so everyone gets to know you a little better. And yeah, I might also show you, if we have a bit of time, some memes and maybe a few questions, because people are crazy out here in this industry of ours. Okay, so let's play a little game of this or that. I can't believe I'm about to ask this, but BTC.
Yeah, the one that's gonna be around in 100 years' time. So Bitcoin.
Wow, 100 years. And
More.
what if there's no humanity in 100 years?
Excuse me?
What if there's no humanity in 100 years?
That's the sad part. Bitcoin will still be around without us.
Oh, you might be right. You actually might be right. Yeah. Okay, so coffee or tea?
Coffee, because it comes from Africa.
Yes. My man. I was actually gonna brew some tea, but yeah, coffee all day. Now, Ethereum or Solana? And now, wait, before you say anything, let's talk about the tech, not the value, not the ecosystem. I don't know. I think I'm not exactly the most comfortable with both ecosystems, but just the tech, the blockchains themselves and their ecosystem. Ethereum or Solana?
I think it still has
Why?
a massive role to play in terms of being the internet and the computer system of the future. I think some of the best L2s run on it. I know there's been a lot of FUD over the last year or so. The sad part is the ETH team aren't great marketers. They're a bunch of engineers who aren't good at changing public perception, whereas Solana, the failed American startup, is a bunch of marketers, so they're great at selling their product that has a downtime of 15% now, something along those lines.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's.
I have faith
Okay.
in Vitalik.
I don't know, man. No. I would say no, because I do not think. I think a lot of things. I think it's weird to have something that could possibly be the computer or the supercomputer of the future always having to be scaled using so many L2s. I think even that by itself is weird. I mean, just on a common sense basis, I'm just like, what sort of a technology needs so much external assistance and less external assistance to scale in so many ways? It's so weird. It's so weird, like by itself. And two, it seems like there's a bit of power tussle between who will have like the most market share of apps, between the layer 2s and the Ethereum proper. And you know what? I think for both of them, I don't know, I have lots of criticisms, but I think like on some level I err on the side of Bitcoin. So maybe for all its imperfections.
Yeah, if you're asking me to choose between those two though, I'll choose ETH. Also not perfect. I do think we've got a better solution coming. I have no idea what that looks like, but maybe there's an African company that goes and builds that African solution that's there for us. The M-Pesa of blockchain.
Yeah. Okay, and another one. USD or stablecoin. Would you rather pay using USD or a stablecoin?
Bitcoin first, but yeah, I think it's interesting what we're gonna see happening with stablecoins this year, given the US's stance. I think stablecoins also allow me to transact digitally. I don't carry around any We the People money. Whereas I can get some USDC on my mobile right now, be able to pay with that.
I guess it's already, that time has come, for them to dominate local finance, and hopefully not CBDCs, but probably, yeah, that's a topic for another day.
That's a scary topic. That's a really scary topic.
That's scary. There's a go on.
I think we're safe in Namibia. I think our central bank knows that they flirt with it every few months. They're like CBDCs, and then we go hard at them, and then they're like, oh, We're just playing. We're just playing.
Yeah, in Nigeria, there was a CBDC. It was called the E-Naira. Nobody
Yeah.
gave a fuck. Absolutely nobody. Nobody gave a rat's ass. And, and also, like, on CBDCs, there's a conspiracy theorist, actually, maybe like two of them. I can't believe I'm calling it conspiracy theorist because that's what a lot of us are actually in the crypto space. We're all kind of crazy. But yeah, but this guy said the entire space from the Bitcoin white paper to where we are now was created all for the express purpose of bringing CBDCs, and not just CBDCs, like the when it comes to like the word that was in the book of Revelations, Bible or whatnot. This guy says that eventually that's going to be a world, a CBDC that's used all around the world and visible on the blockchain and remotely programmable, and basically we're all gonna end up using a world CBDC.
One coin.
Yeah.
A one.
Yeah, maybe a one coin, maybe a world coin,
A
like
world
like
coin.
Sam Altman's
Like
like Sam
Sam.
Altman's project. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, so fuck them. So yeah, two guys, David Sachs or Peter Thiel. Who's your guy?
Neither. If I have to choose one, like for what purpose am I choosing one? Like,
A guy to take over Namibia, or it's a direct crypto policy in Namibia.
Sachs because Thiel is a Nazi, like an actual
Yeah.
Nazi. No,
Yeah.
like an actual Nazi. So he
Yeah.
actually stayed in a coastal town in Namibia, which is very German, very racist.
For me, yeah, I think I might stick with Sat, not because he's good or anything. We might get into that like maybe another time, but I think just because he's proven himself like operationally, and just because he's not Peter Thiel. I don't know about Peter Thiel being Nazi, but like I'll take Peter Thiel gives off. He gives off. What's the name of? Did you watch Star Wars? The guy who indoctrinated Darth Vader to the dark side.
Yeah.
It gives Emperor Palpatine vibes. That's exactly what Peter Thiel has always given.
Are you saying Elon is Darth Vader in this analogy?
Exactly. Elon gives off the vibe of the guy who loves the attention, who wants to be in front of the camera, and Peter Thiel just gives off the guy who's in the background calling the shots. He feels like.
Yeah,
No.
He feels like
yeah, like that kind of dude who like purposely tries to play down himself just so nobody knows how powerful he really is. Like yeah.
I think that's our soundbite then. Is Peter Thiel is the Nazi Sith Lord?
No fucking way. Okay, and a few more interesting ones so people get to know you. Would you rather have lots of money, or would you rather have lots of political power?
This can get deep as well.
Yeah.
It would have to be money because you can buy political power.
Fair.
Yeah.
Is there any politician that I would say got really like generationally rich off of being political appointee? Anyone? I can't even think of one.
Well, we can take a counterpoint of view and say that the Libyan president got overthrown while being politically popular, but he didn't have the economic warfare power that the US did.
Fair.
We won't get into that one though. That's a bit of a deep one.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. And okay, so these are two rich leaders, Putin or Xi. Which one of these guys do you approve of their political moves lately?
Just yesterday, I was listening to a Putin speech where he talks about the U.S. having been after Greenland for the last 160 years. He said it was in the 1800s where they initially, just after they bought Alaska, they were also interested in Greenland at the time, and it was unpopular by the U.S. public because they had seen the purchase of Alaska as being a flop. And how many other presidents are going to know the history of another country that well? So you got to give it to Putin, like extremely intelligent. At the same time, I'm always seeing things of what China looks like. I haven't been myself. I'm hopefully going this year. I'm fascinated
Yeah.
about how the country has just built and established itself. We have sort of a fair Chinese population in Namibia, fairly substantial. I think we should be at a. I think we should like 20,000 or so Chinese in the country at the moment. I don't know. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fascinated about China. I think China's living in the future. Obviously not the whole country, but I think parts of the country are run really well. I know there's things that are very unpopular in the country, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pro Xi.
Okay, so more Xi than Putin.
So yeah, I can basically forget about going to the World Cup next year. I know you guys aren't going to qualify. We still have a chance. But I'm not going to get a visa. I'm not going to get a visa.
Yeah. Okay, and the very last one, Namibia or South Africa, especially in regards to crypto.
So in terms of adoption and in terms of, how things are working, South Africa's leading. But that's why me and my friends, people who think like me, are in Namibia is to get us there as well. I think we've got better regulations in place than they do. We now just need to develop the solutions to match up with those regulations. So it's an interesting time in Namibia. I think anyone in the Web3 space that wants to open up shop here, it's a great opportunity right now. We have good laws in place, good regulation is in place. Just Google Namibia's Virtual Assets Act. It's a 1-page, 2-page document if you summarize it, and it's really well detailed, and what you need to have in place is outlined in simple language. So it's an interesting and exciting time ahead for us in the country. So yeah, Nam.
Oh my gosh, we have come to the end of this conversation. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been so long. And actually, honestly, I think, like, I can't wait for us to have a coffee or something, because for some of these things, I am very sure like there's lots to get into, because, for example, like Putin and Xi, and for example, what the Chinese and say the Russians are doing in Nigeria, it's a whole rabbit hole. That's a whole rabbit hole. That's an entire rabbit hole. Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin. There is a lot to think about. But yeah, this is a good start, and we can probably build on that later, hopefully in real life. But yeah, thank you so much. Is there any last words you'd like to have? Maybe something you would like people to know about you, or something you would like to add to what you've already said before?
Yeah, I want to ask you a question actually to close us off.
Yeah, sure.
I'm good talking. How are you optimistic about the future of Web3 in Africa, and what makes you optimistic or not?
I am optimistic simply because, like most of the global south, there isn't that much, what's the word? Let's just say, like, most of sub-Saharan Africa is already in really bad shape, I think, relatively. From hyperinflation, in West Africa, it's happening in Ghana, it's happening in Nigeria, it's happening elsewhere. I know that like the political situation has only become more and more unstable. Um, in everywhere, even in Southern Africa, now that the Big Rocket Man has taken an interest in you guys, now that like Big Rocket Man is thinking about the white settlers or whatnot. So I know that there's only lots of upside. There isn't that much downside, honestly, especially right now that we're like 25 years into the 21st century. There's just a lot of upside. There's lots of infrastructure to be built for electricity, internet access. And just because of that, and the young population for most of sub-Saharan Africa, like the vast majority of sub-Saharan Africans are not up to 30 years old. And just because of that alone, like we're not going to see a population collapse like the likes of what might happen in most of the developed world, and even the likes of China, the likes of Russia, the likes of even the US are maybe safe for immigration. They probably might be experiencing the very same thing. Africa has no such problems. Africa has no such issues with resources that could generate power. I mean, even though it might take, I think we're generally very serious. I think Like generally, just generally, the things I see with sub-Saharan Africans, they are unserious, motivated, and able to get on the other side of adversity in a way that leaves us clean, and very crucially, unable to shake off neocolonialism or neocolonial powers in a way that's beneficial to us. But aside from these things, yeah, I think that these things are the sorts of things that even if we decide to allow it to be this way as it is, which is unfortunate because it looks like that's how it is. Even though we decide to allow things to just take its natural course, in a decade from now, maybe 2 decades from now, we're still in a healthy place just because of the abundance of resources, the abundance of human capital that we have here compared to the rest of most of the world. If there was going to be like lots of wars breaking out, we probably would see less of those proxy wars happening here. I mean, it's not like there aren't already some, or there isn't already conflict, but we're probably going to not have less of that. So I think just because of those things, the potential of the decentralization and the empowerment that Web3 brings is going to be more acutely felt in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. So yes, I'm bullish. I'm generally bullish with Africa and Web.
Put all of our resources on chain, so there's more traceability and more distributed
Yes.
value.
Yes, that's it.
Fingers crossed, yeah. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. So thank you so much. I'm bullish on Africa. I'm bullish on everything, and I really hope we find a way to figure it out. Yeah. We are out of time. I think we're well over an hour at this point. But yeah, this has been beautiful. I'm so thankful you got the time to do this, and we will. I'm very sure there are lots of clippable things. I hope they don't kick us out of every embassy. Yeah, I mean, like it's all beautiful. Thank you so much. For anyone watching, there will be more episodes like this weekly, and you should go check out Brad. You should go check out Must Disrupt if you really must disrupt everything. I mean, this is a man who is literally on the cusp of disrupting his own business, just stand for his own ideals, and that's something to be lauded for. It's something to praise every other day of the week. Um, yeah, thank you so much, Brad. And let's take this offline another time. Thank you so much, everyone. And on the next episode of Money Panda, we will see y'all. Bye bye.